Hey everyone, it's June 26th, and that means that if today's your birthday, you share with serial killer Robert Maudsley, known as Hannibal the Cannibal and the Brain Eater, who has murdered 4 victims and vowed to kill again if given the chance. And that is him right up there. One of 12 children, Maudsley was born in Liverpool in 1953 and spent much of his childhood in an orphanage until his parents retrieved him and his siblings and set up a rather large family unit. His father beat the children daily at the behest of his mother, and Maudsley has said that he was also raped by the man, so he was happy when he was once again removed from the home by social services. He worked as a prostitute as a teenager to support a drug habit he had picked up to cope with his terrible home life, and he attempted suicide multiple times as an adolescent. When seeing doctors at the age of 17, he told them that voices in his head were telling him to kill his parents. Luckily for them, he didn't, but 4 years later, Maudsley did kill a John who showed him photos of children he had sexually assaulted. He then turned himself in, telling the authorities that he needed psychiatric help. After being found unfit to stand trial, he was sent to Broadmoor Hospital, which is where many of Britain's most famous prisoners have ended up, including serial killer Peter Sutcliffe. Scroll down to June 2nd for more on him. After 3 years in the facility, he killed again when he and a fellow prisoner murdered another incarcerated man in revenge for a friend of theirs being sexually assaulted. They locked themselves in a cell together and spent 9 hours torturing their victim, cracking his skull open and lodging a plastic spoon inside his head, and rumors were that he had eaten some of the man's brain. This wasn't true, but it was enough to be called Hannibal the Cannibal and Brain Eater by the press in later years. Guards eventually broke into the cell and was tried and convicted of manslaughter, being sent to Wakefield Prison. He was upset at being moved and decided to make it known by killing his fellow prisoners in 1978. Maudsley began by inviting a prisoner who had been tutoring him over to his cell, where he strangled and stabbed the man, hiding the body under his bed. After failing to lure additional prisoners to his cell, he decided to hunt down another victim, stabbing one to death who was laying in his own bed. He also slammed the man's head against the wall and then walked up to a corrections officer, gave him the shiv he had used, and said that the guard would be too short when it came to the next roll call. He was tried for the 2 murders, and his lawyer said he felt that had he actually killed his parents in 1970, no one else would have had to die, and that he thought of his parents when killing his victims. Being deemed too dangerous to be around other prisoners, Maudsley was placed in solitary confinement, and in 1983 a special glass-walled cell was constructed just for him in the basement of the prison, where he remains to this day. To get to the cell, one must pass through 17 locked doors, and his only furniture is made from cardboard. When he was taken outside of his cell for 1 hour a day, he is escorted by 4 officers at all times and isn't allowed to interact with other prisoners. He has periodically appealed his sentence and tried to get officials to relax the conditions of his solitary confinement, going so far as to threatening to kill himself if not allowed to have a pet bird, but he has yet to follow up on that threat. In 2010, he requested that he be allowed to play board games with his guards, but even that was denied, and Maudsley, now Britain's longest-serving prisoner, spends his days writing replies to the types of people who send letters to serial killers in prison. This past January, he set the world record for the longest time spent in solitary confinement. If this is your birthday, I hope you have a great day. Leave me a comment so I can wish you a happy birthday. If you know someone's birthday it is today, send them this video so you can find out all about their birthday twin. And to Robert Maudsley, I say, happy birthday, you bastard.